Hello, another video. So the last time we spent enough time looking at promises, and the main, um, I think it was always important to really understand how the format is. We've had a little bit of a hiccup when it came to this formatting. It's kind of confusing at times when you nest them. So when you create a new promise, usually there is a resolve and there is a reject, in which these two gets passed to the promise, and accordingly you would handle each and every one of them. So in here, we created a new promise, and the um, we have an item and delay. So this returns fail, and this returns item. So resolves the item, and this rejects, returns a fail. Okay, so this is like a just a one way of actually creating a function like this. So that's a one way to do it. So this matches this. So we have a function promisify takes an item and okay and delay, these two variables. You return a promise for which when it's resolved, um, it resolves item and delay. So by the end of this, we'll have um, a promise of a set timeout that has um, a value to return and the amount of delay, which is we pass through here. Now, we've also looked at all settled races and the sequence in which we create a weight like so. Okay, I believe we still have to revisit this with time. Um, it still needs a little bit of getting acquainted to. It's a little, so the way they make it easy, but at the same time, it's a little complicated to keep up with it. So now I am going to go back to the course and see what the course has. Okay, so today's lesson is we need to use the require. So let's go for, hold on. Okay, so let's call it includes.js. So this is about using an existing script or using an existing module to use into our system. So it's like an importation. It's like you import a certain library to the system. And the way you achieve that is using, we've already seen this in the event emitter in the observer class. So we use require and then the name of the model that we are interested in. So let's experiment with request. So, and usually this is put in a constant. So let's go for request. Or no, it's not request. It's so in the request it's called HTTP, like so. So in this case, let's go for HTTP, and then we require that show fixes convert to import HTTP from. Okay. Okay, so this is the ES. Import HTTP from HTTP. But I think we just want to stick to, so HTTP equals require, and then init we require HTTP, like so. And then now the way we use HTTP, the request itself, is, so let's go on HTTP.on. What does it take? No. Okay, so the syntax is very simple. We have HTTP, and then we need to make a request to a certain URL. So the URL would be HTTP. Let's go on and explore Google. So in this case, we will have so HTTP.request. And was it no? What does it take? So the request takes in options string URL, okay, and then a comma and a callback. Okay, so with Node, callbacks are always at the very end. It's like in Python and all. So in this case, let's go with http google.com. Okay, and the callback is it returns what? It returns data, and the way we process the data is that we just do okay, response. Okay, we get a responses to the data, and then the response dot on, and then we data. Okay, so the reason why there is an on here, because this is an emitter. So when we create a class, we're actually observing the response. We're just waiting on upon when we receive the response, which is the dot on, and then we look for that. We look for data, and then we can mess around with data accordingly. And then you can see that on also has a listener on event. So the event is data, and the listener. Okay, so the listener um, returns information. So let's call it chunk. Okay, so chunk is returned from data, and then we can do console.log chunk. Okay, received data is like so. Okay, now HTTP. Now we need to now this is now how do we trigger this? Okay, let's go for constant request equals. So the request is here. We also have another event emitter, which is response dot end. It's not it. Oh yeah, dot on. And then we have a keyword end. Okay, send in end means like the end of transmission. And then just console.log finished. And then to trigger this, request.end. So this is important for us to trigger the request. All right, let's go ahead and see. Includes. All right, we're doing something wrong. All right, let's stop. Includes the JS. Okay, so we have a request HTTP. Okay. All right, let's see if this returns an error. Let's remove the protocol because we can have HTTPS. Let's see if this does anything. So invalid URL. Obviously, it's an invalid protocol because we imported HTTP. So the expectation is that we use HTTP here. So we take a response. Okay, this is a callback to the request. Okay, so the reason why this is not triggered, there's a reason why. Let's try this again. No, let's save. Try again. It's not running. So it's not being triggered. It just like remove. It's like this is not. Oh, okay. I know what's the problem. So if we remove this, we'll still get the same results. See? So, but instead, what we can do is request rec.end like so function, and now we should get a response. As you can see, it's finished transmitting. So this way, response to data takes in chunks of data. If you have, so this is actually a stream. This has to be a stream, right? On is a listener. It keeps listening on incoming messages. It keeps listening for incoming messages. Now, if we do HTTPS, we can do HTTPS right here, and then we do so. If we run this, we still get the same result, like so. But if we take off, is this backward compatible? Is this a support HTTP or invalid? So it has to comply with whatever we import. Okay, so in this case, there's also another format of actually writing this. Then we can actually write this in curly brackets like so. We can do uh, not HTTP, but we can do request. So we need request from HTTP like so, and then we can get rid of this. This should work still fine like that. Okay, so we had to go back in order to do this. We had to go back to, and it's very important that we go to the documentation. Hold on. And if we take a look at the APIs, where we have all the modules, packages, and in the packages, we got HTTP right here. And then we can see that we have request.http. Okay, let me see. We had the request.on http.request http.request. So if you take a look at request, there we go. Request.end. This is what we're looking for. Sending finishes sending the request. If any parts of the body are sent, it will flush them into the stream. This was self-determinating. Yeah, if data is specified, it's equivalent to request to write data encoding. Okay. Request to set header, blah blah blah, get header. So we can play around with the headers and so on. Okay, if we go back to our code, we requested the request on the HTTP API, and then we set the URL. We got a response to raw data at the end. Now this is the type of request. If we take a look at this again, now this is how. Oh yeah, there's the .get too. Yeah, okay. .get is when we're just retrieving. We're not writing anything. Okay, .get. You can see here that this is on .on and .get. This is a request. So .get and then for this is okay. Request on error. Earlier we had .end and response.end. Okay, like so. On finishing transmission. Okay. All right, so let's try to create our own module then. It's very handy if we use an existing module, but let's go ahead and create our own module. Now, obviously, this is messy. We can organize these in folders and work our way, but we want to go for a quick one because we spend lots of time in theory going through different videos. So I'm just gonna go for it. All right, you know what? Let's go for custom now module. So our own private module. Okay, so let's create our own. So instead of us using require, just need to get acquainted with how things actually work and how can we expose our own module. So Let's go ahead and create a new project, maybe. You know what? I'm just gonna create this right here. So let's go ahead and create, let's call it https.js. Okay, in this HTTPS, we are going to create a function that does the request for us. Let's call it make request. And it takes in the URL, and data. Now we need to request the URL. We need to request the URL and return data response. Okay, so this is the function that makes the request. So it's gonna do request, and we also have a response. So we want to do a request. Okay, this is an HTTPS. So in the request, we are going to encrypt the data and call it. Okay, in the request, so we have HTTP. Let's create a new folder. Let's call it request.js, and we create a new one called response.js. In the request.js, we're going to create a function called send. What does it send? It sends the URL and data. Obviously, we need to encrypt. So let's create another function, encrypt data. And in the function, we will return encrypted data, which tells a string. So in this case, we're going to encrypt data. Okay, we can constant encrypted data will be equal to encrypt data, and then we will console.log. This is not actually like a real life implementation, but just a way for us to, sending encrypted data. Okay, so sending encrypted data, new line. There you go. So this is the sending encryption. You can save this, and then the response, we need to do function receive response. No, let's see. We have the send function that does. Okay, so now this one, this is the receive. This reads, the function reads data. So it does receive the data, and then it does the decryption, decrypt data. Oops. Decrypt. What's going on? Come on. Decrypted data received. Received data and it's decrypted. Like so. So now this, in this case, we need to do function decrypt. It takes in data and returns encrypted data. Okay. So now we got a function. Okay. Decrypt data. overwrite. So now we have, now in HTTP, you make a request to the URL. Now we need to call request.send, and then here request.read. Now we need to expose these functions to HTTPS. So the way we do this is very simple. We do module.exports and then we specify what we need to export. We need to export the send function as send function. Okay, so module.exports. And if we try to, let's try to print console.log module. Okay, so module has certain variables in it, and we can do request.js, and you can see there is a so this is the exports, this is the module variable right here. This is the object, the module object. It has a path and it has a file name, which is the current one, request.js. And then there is exports, it's empty. So we need to, the reason why we specify this is curly brackets is because it takes in an object on its own. So the name, the context is the name of the object that conforms to it. So, okay. Now we can do the same for response. We can do module.exports, and then we modify the variable which goes read. So now we have exposed, for the current module, we've exposed read, and for the request module, we've exposed send. Now we need to introduce this here. Let's go on and call request, which is require, and then in here, what we can do is we need to specify the path. So it's dot, which is the existing working path to request. There we go. And then we need to do the same for response, require, and then we can do response like so. Now we have to also do the JS, but with Node, it has certain precedence. Now it takes in .js first, it looks for the JS first, and then JSON, and then .node. But this is fine, like it suffices just fine. Okay, so now we are going to do request.send, and then we send in, it takes in data, a string. Now we can modify these request, send, it takes URL and data. Read takes in data only. So request.send requires URL and data, like so. And then we have request.read. No, it's response.read URL. No, it takes in just data, like so. Okay. All right, let's see if this works. Okay, we have to do HTTPS. We have a problem, has already been declared. Request. Oh, it's already been declared. All right, let's check this one out again. We didn't get an output, but we have here. We have, oh, okay. All right, let's hold on. So this console is not actually being called. It's not actually being printed. because, and yeah, this is what we get. Okay, so if we do console.log and then we log what we get, we should be getting transmitting data. Still didn't get anything. Okay, what is wrong? We're not calling make request. Oh my god. So let's go for make request, and then we're sending it www.google.com and the data. So for the make request, we don't need the data. All right, hold on. Let me send in the data like so. All right, this should do it. Now let's remove the console. Sending encrypted data, receive data, and it's decrypted. So sending encrypted data, and then read up, receive data, and it's decrypted. So this is a success. We made our own module. So we made our own module. We made it happen using modular export, and we've consumed that module right here. Yeah. Okay, so request.js can make it happen, but hold on. Okay, what I wanted to do is do this. So let's go for node and then require extensions. Say we got the js.json.node. This is for the extensions for these. Interesting. Okay. So now we made it happen like our own custom module. But HTTP requires request and response. The request sends we exposed this function. The other one is private to this module. We exposed it using this object right here. We gave it a name and we gave it an identifier. The same here goes, the same happens. Now this also works like this. Now this would still work. So this would still work. There you go. Because this is the same format as this. Okay, just because they're the same name. Otherwise, I'd have to specify them. All right. So there's also another point to consider, which is the way we export modules. So we can actually, so this actually allows us to, why am I, oh, okay, this was auto added, automatically added. So we can actually add, so for example, choice, timeout, and say equals to 0. Okay, you can actually expose this here, and then we can consume it right here. So we can do request. So where did we add this response? I think we've added to the response.timeout counter. So we can actually use that counter. So this allows us to use different variables across, like, this allows us to use global variables across different modules. And this is not the limitation right here. So what we can also do is, so we can actually import, instead of response, we can just import read, we can import read and timeout counter, and we can just use it directly like that. So we can actually console.log and then if we run this, we can actually see that the counter is actually 0. So this is one way to do this, and there are also other methods, but it's always, yeah, what we can also do is instead of, so in the response, for example, here, what we can do is we can go, instead of function, we can go module exports read. So like that, and then instead of using this, okay, let me redo this. For example, the request, we can, instead of using this, we can go module exports, and then you just do the sends like so. What is wrong? Yeah, so send should have an equal. And then you just need to add this like so. What is expected? Okay, this should work, I hope. And if we try to run, oh, okay. Send, so export modules equals, didn't define what is it equal, so it's function. And then we have to, when we run this, what do we have? Did we not save it? Oh, it's not a function. Request is not a function. This is not a function. This is request is not a function. Request. Oh, so we're actually exporting just send. In this case, we just need to do send. It should be in curly brackets. And hopefully this would work. See? Nope, it didn't work. Send is not a function. Okay. Send. Request. Module exports equals function send. Maybe we should just do send. Okay, let's do send. Yeah, okay. So we just need to import send. I think the original format, the one we set out to actually, so the way we're doing this at the very bottom is way better than, just messing around like this. I just feel like this is quite confusing. But so this actually, so we're actually exporting send right here. And if what happens if we export? Let's go for module that exports and then constant timer setter equals to false. Now what happens here? Okay, what happens to this? And then we just do timer setter. Okay, so does this mean in order for us to, we can use timer, would this work? Timer setter. Okay, and how do I use that one? Console log counter. Okay, let's do console.log. It's not counter, it's time setter, timer setter. Alright, let's see if this works. We have a problem. Missing initializer. So does this mean like we have to do it like so? Send is not a function. Oh, this is quite confusing, isn't it? We have a mistake here. So we can do export to send, and then we can do the timer setter. I think this would work. Yeah, it did. So it needs to have the specific explicit naming. All right, we'll stop this right here and we'll pursue this in another video.